Welcome to No Clip, the podcast that's like a book club for people who don't think that books reward them enough for being good at them. I'm Chad Rutherman.
And I'm Andy Kinnick.
And today, we're going to be talking about Wanted Dead, a game that was developed by Soleil, published by 110 Industries, and was released in 2023 on Windows, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and the Xbox Series X and S.
But first, even give us a like or a rating. It would be greatly appreciated.
All right, Wanted Dead is a PlayStation 3 game. It is a third-person action game that is linear, contains sword combat, and gun shooting combat, and a narrative. And this was suggested to us by the same person who suggested the game Wet. I see you. Your tastes are becoming abundantly clear to me.
Yeah. It's like the perfect follow-up suggestion.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think so. I'm just going to preface the whole conversation with this. We are going to do our book club thing that we do. That is unscripted. We talk about our experience playing the game, what we think about it, whatever. If you want to see the scripted version of this, Jacob Geller is the reason that I'm aware of this game at all. It did an incredible 30-minute video about this game, and I think really hones in on what the weirdness is. That makes this interesting. So I do recommend that as a companion piece to this if you haven't already seen it. I'm going to try not to make the same points that he does. But there are some things that he said that are just factual. And I think that, I don't know if this was his thesis, but I think it is my thesis. And what I would like to start with on the game is that this is a game that is so strange. But the reason that it is weird is because it is genuinely pretty bad in a lot of ways. But so much effort was put into it that amount of effort is what is weird. It seems like there's a weird amount of work that went into making this game that feels like it's half baked in some places and way overcooked in others.
Right. Yeah. In my head, it feels kind of like, what's the best way to describe it? Kind of like the gameplay is very PS2, PS3 era, very gamey, and almost there's kind of in the gameplay you have you're cutting dudes in half with chainsaws and stuff, just very gleefully video gamey in a PS2 kind of era way, at least in my head. But then it wants to deliver this more complex story and have all these characters, and it is really a strange cocktail of things. I don't know. It almost kind of feels like people from the Time Splitters team time traveled to now and made this game. Or
they time split to now.
Yeah. It just there's a weird tonal inconsistencies. It was the way I was thinking of it.
Yeah, some would argue too complicated of a story that they tried to tell. To the point where I think it exceeded their... that's kind of the big question that I have is what was the limiting factor on this? Was it budget? Budget causes a lot of problems in game development, especially when you're doing an ambitious project. Something like Death Stranding exists because Hideo Kojima is able to accrue enormous amounts of money. Not anyone is going to be able to pitch that game and get funding for it, but he can. This game is not made by a known developer, but has enough money that it has real AAA production value to it. But then also it has actors who are delivering a script in English, which we can blame like Anglicization of I'm just making words up of the world and how everything that's popular has to be in English because it's such a large market or whatever. Like if this game was recorded in German, would the performances be better? I would venture to say probably, but I don't know. Was it the writing? Did they not know how to tie the different parts of the narrative together? Was it the vision, like the programming? I didn't run into bugs or anything, but like the game clearly plays worse than it should. It's like everything is just a little askew from what it needs to be.
Yeah. It kind of seems like, like probably budget and maybe experience as well. It's hard to know exactly. Yeah, it's hard to put your finger on that. Like, I feel like the game, like some of it feels intentional to me. Like I almost feel like they wanted to make the game a little weird. And I would also almost kind of like compare it to something like Senua's Sacrifice. Like it feels like they like had like a decent budget and decided to put that into making like a high production shorter game rather than like a longer, like, lesser quality game as far as like visuals and things go. And also I feel like it feels like it wants to be weird. Like it feels like there's some like Metal Gear Solid influence in this, like some Resident Evil, and like there's like a lot of like weird little callbacks, or not callbacks, but like little what feel like little references and things, or inspirations in there. It seems partially intentional, and then it also might be a little bit of that like Life is Strange kind of effect, where it's like foreign adults trying to write like trendy dialogue and stuff like that. So yeah, like it is just all over the place. It's hard to describe.
Yeah, it is tantalizingly hard to describe. It's like a thing, because I've tried to do this. I've told two people about this game as I was playing it, and it's hard to describe exactly what it is about it, because I always start out just being like, this is not a recommendation. Like, I cannot recommend this game to most people, because the experience that you have to be looking for in order to get enjoyment out of this game is one that is difficult to make sense of. Like, it isn't your traditional kind of game. But then a lot of the game is still the gameplay, which is not, to me, was the weakest part of the game. From a holistic standpoint, it's probably the strongest part of the game, because if you're looking at it objectively, the writing isn't great, the quality of the voice acting isn't great, inconsistent at best, and the gameplay actually functions and works properly for the most part. But like, I was there for the stuff that wasn't technically great. I wasn't there for this combat system, which is not super fun. So it's a difficult thing to recommend, and it works, I think, well in this context, because we're talking to people who probably haven't played the game.
Right.
I just want you to know, as the audience, that if you go in and play this after listening to us talk about it, it is going to be more boring than it sounds at the outset, because that was my experience as well. So yeah, I guess the setup of the game is insanity from many different angles, but your player character, his character's name is Hannah Stone, probably. She has like another name that I think she used to have, but then her memory got wiped.
Yeah, her real name.
Yeah, she has a real name that I don't remember. Hannah Stone is how she's referred to in game for the most part. And you are the lieutenant in Hong Kong. The geopolitics of Wanted Dead are unknown to me. I don't know why this is a Hong Kong thing. Because she is explicitly Swiss. and but went to prison for committing heinous war crimes. And so did all of the other members of your team who are a part of the Hong Kong police's zombie squad.
Right.
And so we've got like a Suicide Squad thing, right? Where it's like, oh, this is criminals that are like pulled from the government to work for them as a way of staying their sentence.
Yeah, they have a particular set of skills.
They've got a particular set of skills.
They're putting together a special team, et cetera, et cetera.
Et cetera, et cetera. It's exactly what you need. And then that's kind of it, though. Like there's this idea here. You can like visually see my struggle in a way that other people cannot. Because there is this element of like police, like political, like within the police station. There's like your squad.
It's like brushing elbows, with some kind of conspiracy type narrative.
Because the chief of police is the final boss, and he's wearing like a Metal Gear Revengeance ride-in suit.
It also looks a little bit like, is it Liquid Snake?
He does kind of have a yeah, it's like long blonde, slicked back hair. Yeah. But this guy has a mustache who's totally different.
Of course.
And like you have your like Danny Glover character guy who's like your like the down to earth police chief dude, but I don't know what his actual position is.
Right.
I don't, and so there's something to do with the police and that they are owned by this company that makes robots.
Right.
But it feels like the plot does not care or give a shit at all about that element of it. It was just like an excuse. It's the tavern that your D&D characters meet in.
Right.
They just needed everyone to be in one place, and so they did that.
It feels very like it is another way it feels like an older game, is that like it feels very much like while they were developing it, they had like the story and the gameplay being developed separately, and they were like, we'll figure out how to like integrate them later. And they just never did, like you'll have like the cutscenes are long, right? Like you'll have like a stretch of gameplay and then you'll watch like a 45-minute cutscene, and then like the next stretch of gameplay. And then it is kind of like a movie broken up with gameplay, more so than like, other games that may have been jokingly described as such. But it feels like it's just not quite. Like it needed more iteration, in like the development process, and it just doesn't have that.
Yeah. And it is like, and the cutscenes don't even like, it's so haphazardly put together, like the narrative is, that you have these long cutscenes, and like that first cutscene that I was just describing, like sets up the police thing, and then like the second, as soon as you beat the first level, it just goes in completely different directions. Like it has a sequence where she tries to eat food, which is the most baffling cutscene I've ever seen in my life. Where it's like there's like a fish head and some soup, and it's gross, and she doesn't want to eat it, which makes sense. But then like she goes to eat like the potatoes, and she like can't stab it with the fork. And so she just gives up and like goes through the same bit like 4 times in a row where the food is inedible. And then it just like abruptly changes. Like it's not commented on. It doesn't make any difference. You then go to a diner and have a conversation with everybody. And then the weapons specialist, Vivian, for the police, who just wears a regular police uniform, despite the fact that everybody else is dressed seemingly however they want. And they talk about stuff for a while, and then you have to like go back to her to start the next mission. It's like, it's unrelated, spliced together scenes that seem like almost like sketch, like variety show style, where they had like a gag that they wanted to do, and so they put together a whole scene for it without connecting it to anything else.
Yeah, it's like they came up with that joke about how like prison food is bad or whatever, and they came up with a scene for it, but it still doesn't make any sense just on its own.
Yeah, because like well, I mean, I guess that's why you go to the diner afterward, because
right.
you couldn't eat at the mess hall.
Yeah,
It's all starting to fall together. What it did actually makes perfect sense.
Of course. Yeah, this is like probably the first time ever a game had a hub area, and I was like, maybe the game doesn't need this.
It's bad when you are like, the hub area kind of sucks.
Yeah. I mean, I still liked it and think I like the game more because it's in there, but it made me question. I was like, what is this? Because like it's like the layout of it is like so like unintuitive. Like it's not easy to like find your way around, and like you don't end up spending that much time in it. Like, I mean, you don't have to. You could if you wanted, but like if you're just playing it normally, you're not going to spend much time there. So it just kind of feels like, yeah, like a lot of the other things. Like they had the idea for this. They're like, oh, this is how we'll tie it all together. There'll be a hub, that you go between missions, and it can bridge the story and the gameplay together. But then they just didn't, actually fully realize it.
Right. Yeah, because like a hub makes sense in, I think, certain games. I think there are certain places where having a hub is nice. Open world games are a newer example of it, but like linear games where you have a more abstracted like level select kind of thing going on. A hub is great when you have options, right? Because it has multiple ways to go. There aren't options in this game, so the hub is just like an area that you exist in briefly in between missions, and also houses the mini games. That's it.
Yeah. It's like the game feels like it really wants to do like world building, right? Like it feels like it's trying to set up a franchise. Like, and I think the hub is supposed to be there to like give more like personality and character to like your motley crew of characters. But like each one has like a mini game associated with them and stuff like that. But like, yeah, like it just, once again, it just doesn't have enough time dedicated to it. Like the game's too short. You don't really go back there. You don't learn the space. Like you don't have to engage with it. So yeah, it does just kind of feel like it's just kind of an annoyance, like it's a thing to make you run around before you can do the next level.
Yeah, and that is also the probably the biggest problem with the police station as a hub area is that it is an annoyance. If it was just a speed bump, like a thing that you loaded into and then you went to a location and went to the next mission, that's fine. But the problem is it tells you a vague thing. It'll be like, go to your crew quarters on the 4th floor. And I'm like, I don't know where that is at all. Like, I don't know what that means. So you run around the whole floor to find it. And like, yeah, if they ask you to go there again, maybe you'll know this time. But every time that it would give me a new location to go to, I would just have to like run around doing nothing to try and advance, which does not work. I feel like it exists as a hub area specifically to set up the next to last mission where it gets invaded, and they want you to be like, oh, my safe zone has been like taken over by
a cool
enemies.
Idea. Yeah, and like it's it also made me like, another thing I never do is like just running around it, like nothing's labeled very clearly, and it almost feels like the floors, even though like a building like that, every floor should be like the same layout. It isn't, I don't think, or at least it didn't feel like it was. So yeah, it's hard to like navigate in that way. Like it almost feels a little liminal, like it just isn't quite right. But yeah, it kind of made me like wish, like I wish there was just a waypoint. Like I almost wish I had a mini map, and I never think that. just to navigate this little police station.
This game has really turned all of your preferences on their head.
It is wild, yeah.
Because I do also wish that there's a mini map specifically for the police station. Because you get like diegetic maps of all the areas.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the police station, as far as I know, you don't get a map for. And it's the place that you need a map for the most.
Yeah, I think there's like one on the wall you can look at.
Oh, probably. And then it'll probably get saved into your inventory, and then you can look at it. But you never would, though, because it would be really annoying.
Right, I'm trying to right now remember if that's correct or if I'm just thinking of Shenmue, where there was like a wall, or it was like a map of Devoita on the wall that you could look at.
This is the only comparison between the two games.
Yeah. That's that podcast.
Well, that's not actually true.
Going on.
Yeah. But no, yeah, similarly to Shenmue. Actually, it makes no sense to go into this first. We'll talk about it after. Similar to Shenmue, this game also has a bunch of mini games. But I think we should talk about the macro game before we get into that.
Right.
So yeah, in between missions and whatever, you do all this shit in there. But in the missions themselves, I just want to talk mechanically for a bit. Just talking about what you do in the game. I described it at the end of the last episode as trying to fit in every kind of third-person action game into one game. Maybe that's not entirely true. As far as I know, there isn't a stealth section in this game.
Right.
But it is extremely weird in that it wants to have this, like, I mean, similar to everything else. It's just not well combined. It has melee combat and, like, ranged gunplay. And there's no mixing them at all. You have a pistol, but the pistol is just like part of your melee moveset. It's not a gun in the traditional sense. It is a gun in the sense that lots of 3D action games treat guns, like Devil May Cry, where it's like a combo tool more than it is anything else. But it is like a thing. So I don't know how I'm curious to an extent, even though I'm like 99% sure I know the answers to these questions. But did you play with a keyboard and mouse or with a controller?
I played on the PlayStation 5, so I played with a controller.
That makes sense. So I assume that you also 100% of the time used melee, unless it was like a rare instance you would use a gun.
Yeah. Like, of course, that's what I defaulted to, and then like I found the second mission to be a pretty big difficulty spike. So like I started experimenting with the gun. I'm like, okay, maybe I should be using this more. Like maybe I'm playing it like an idiot. But then it's like I felt like I ran out of ammo like almost immediately if I did that, you know. So it was like, okay, maybe I was playing it correctly then. Like the actual like actual like third person shooting with your non-pistol, like it felt hard to know like how to use that optimally, like to me, like, you know, like when a good time to do it other than to like explode a propane tank or whatever. So yeah, I mostly was just doing melee combat, sprinting around.
Yeah, I don't think I don't want to say that is like the game fucking up or anything. It's intentionally designed in a way to make it so that the melee combat is like the default and that you switch to the guns for other reasons. But using it as like a tool didn't ever really feel like it felt like it was going against design, because the enemies that I found I was shooting with guns were the melee enemies, and I would be chasing down the ranged enemies with a sword. because they just died when you attacked them with the sword. And the melee enemies were really hard to kill with a sword. So I just walked backward and shot all of my bullets into them.
Right.
And that was just kind of the way that the game worked for me, was that it was like there's melee that you fought, you rock, paper, scissors, but there's only rock and paper. So you just choose which one of those two to go with for the different kinds of enemies. So I don't know. It felt very disjointed, and I agree there's a problem with ammo. Like ammo for your main gun that has like a gun customization menu that I basically did not fuck with whatsoever. Like you'll run out of ammo for that in 2 seconds, and then you pick it up in like clips of 10. But you can pick up guns that the enemies use and get tons of ammo for those if you really need it. So I felt like I always had ammo available to me, but it was like I wasn't choosing to use it, except I would use all of it at once in certain scenarios. And it made me think, like, why do we even have the guns in the first place? There's like a whole ass skill tree. The game has skill trees. And it's like, why would I put anything in the ranged tree until I've like filled out everything else? It's just weird.
Yeah. I'm actually a little surprised to hear that we had the similar experience. I think because like in my head, I'm like, oh, it's probably a me thing. You know, like I imagine like people being like I would look up a review and people would be like, the combat's great. You know, and I almost kind of thought you would think that too, but then everybody I guess thinks the same thing, so it isn't just me. I just so used to thinking of myself like as a outsider to games with shooting mechanics.
Yeah, third-person shooter's not your cup of tea.
Right. I imagine other people like almost always using guns and almost never using the sword somehow.
Right.
But yeah, you know, no, I agree 100%. Like it felt like if it won, because at least in my head, and maybe I was just like misreading what was presented to me, but like it felt like it wanted it to be like a back and forth thing, like where you would be like switching between melee and gunplay, and it just does not play out that way.
Yeah, I think in the tutorial, it tutorializes shooting the gun first. It's like, you know, hold right click to aim down sight or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it's a gun game. So I like set up my I was like on mouse keyboard, set my like mouse sensitivity that you have to do every time that you play a fucking shooter game, because it's always way too high. And then I started it, and it was like, anyway, so now we're going to do the melee part. Click in on the middle mouse button, and I was like, oh, fuck this. Like, no chance am I doing that. So I plugged in a controller, and we wasted time setting up. I used a controller for the whole thing, which definitely influences me. Like, I'm going to be more likely to engage with the melee combat if I'm using a controller than if I'm using a mouse and keyboard. I did use the mouse and keyboard to easily trounce the gunsmith in the shooting range minigame.
Oh, yeah.
But if I'm actually moving around and engaging in combat, it was a controller game, and I think that probably made me more likely to go into more melee based stuff. But also, I think the melee like feels kind of good, and the shooting is terrible. Yeah. Every part of this game that is like a cover shooter is horrible, garbage.
Yeah. I almost never used cover. Like,
same.
It felt like just like I would hide behind cover, pop out, maybe kill a guy, and then be out of ammo. You know, like it's really not built for that. I know you said Jacob Geller did a video on this, and I guess because I had never heard of this game, I blanked that one out and didn't watch it. Because I knew absolutely nothing about this going in, and I was actually kind of surprised when I first started it. Like, I was like, oh, this actually feels like pretty good and polished for like action gameplay, like combat. but it really feels like it's like the balancing, like all the tweaking, the knobs, which I think is just, we keep coming back to that. That's kind of the thesis about the game. Like a lot of polish and talent and love and etc. and so forth went into this game. It's just like either the money or the know-how to like pull it all together just isn't there.
Yeah. It was just like a lot. They had a lot of ideas and didn't want to cut any of them from the game. Is what it seems like. Though I also wouldn't be surprised if there was like a whole level of this game that was missing, because there are parts of the story that feel like they just don't connect.
I feel like they had to have had the amount of ideas for like a game twice, if not 3 times longer than the game ended up.
Yeah, because I think this game is like a 10-hour game.
Yeah,
like
it's
on the shorter side as far as time spent goes, but it does feel like a game that wants to be at least 20 hours long and have like a lot more intrigue to it. For example, if you look at the first quest of the game, you are indiscriminately murdering security officers is kind of what is happening. And then it ends with a boss fight with a tank, and you kill the tank by hitting it with a sword, which is great. I love that. Subsequently, you then go into a mission, the difficulty spike mission, which I do agree with, where you're running through a forest or like a park, and there's a bunch of androids, of robots, synthetics, Blade Runner, that they take like 3 times as much damage as regular people do, and there's a trillion of them all the time.
They're huge damage sponges, yeah. And they just look like guys in like construction outfits, so it's like very jarring. You're just hacking at a guy in like a white t-shirt, and he just doesn't die.
And they're animated like zombies. Like they run full bore at you like all the time. It's such a weird thing, because they are tanky zombies that look like construction workers, but in universe are robots.
And they like bleed.
They do bleed regular blood.
Yeah.
To the point where they have to slap the censored thing over it when you kill them with a chainsaw, which is a great touch that I thought was very funny.
It is very much so.
But the culmination of that mission is you fight the leader of the robots. So the robots and then immediately goes into a cutscene where you're interrogating one of them. So like there is plot to back this up. It's weird that the robots are just like, yes, they are sentient robots. Not even a question. The game barely pushes back against the idea.
Right.
And I was like, oh, this is like a totally different kind of story than I was expecting. Because like the company that makes the robots also bankrolls the police department. And so there's like a power struggle there. And then you go in and like quell the robot uprising for them. But then the next mission has nothing to do with it. There's no robots at all. You like go to a nightclub to confront a guy about the robot. And then in the opening cutscene to that level, shoot him right through the brain and he dies. And then you do a level where you fight regular guys in a nightclub, and it takes like an hour to do. So like it started down this path that was very different that I thought we were getting. There's like this whole thing about like synthetics and their thought processes and everything else that happens, and then gone. Immediately gone. They don't pop back up until like the last level of the game. And I don't actually even know how to take what is done at that point. Because now this person that you interrogated and then never spoke to again, you just like lead through the city and then they escape on a helicopter. Like nothing was said about it. Like it didn't amount to anything. There are just Blade Runner synthetics in this
replicants.
game. Yeah, for no reason. I'll say, yeah, synthetics are Wayland Yutani. That's an
Right,
alien
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Replicants are the Blade Runner ones.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like they're banking on getting a sequel almost. It's probably not true, but it really feels like, yeah, you'll find out more in the next one.
Right. But I mean, it feels like people like comic books and things that release in serial form now, and so I feel bad shitting on it. It feels more like a comic situation where it is expected that a single storyline will take multiple issues to get through, but a comic book doesn't take 10 hours to read.
Right. Well,
So this has like started all of these threads and has not ended any of them.
it also, similarly to comic books, like it kind of feels like you just picked up a random issue. Like it feels like there's context you don't have. Like you're kind of dropped into the middle of a universe that like it's assuming you have more context for.
Which is like, maybe that can work. But I feel like the things that it's missing are so specific and important
Right.
that it becomes difficult to parse. Like, I don't know. At the end of the game, there's like a cutscene where your character calls an orphanage to talk to a kid, presumably the kid that she like killed his dad after he killed the kid's mom in a
I thought it
cutscene
was
that seems unrelated to everything else.
I thought it was her son that she's calling.
So I would have not been able to say anything about that had I not watched the Jacob Geller video. And it's not even in the Jacob Geller video. It was a comment on the Jacob Geller video that reminded me and everyone else, because no one fucking knows this. This game inexplicably takes place in 2023.
Oh yeah.
Like it's supposed to take place in the modern age, despite the fact that your main character has like a robot prosthetic. But the flashback sequences take place so long ago. I forget the specific year. It's like in the 90s or something, or like 2004 or something. So the person she's calling, if it was her son, would be an adult and wouldn't be at an orphanage anymore. That, according to some guy.
Well, if I know
Source,
from
some guy.
Yeah, I know from watching the true ending on YouTube that she is calling her son.
There's a true ending?
Yeah, if you play it on the hardest difficulty, which I think you had to beat the game to unlock, so you had to play it a second time. Yeah, you get an extra bonus scene, and it reveals her real name. If it doesn't in the regular ending, I don't remember.
It does,
and it reveals that she's calling her son. Like, there's like a scene where she's like goes into like a secret, also very comic booky, like government program. And it's like, oh, I had my son when I was 15. Like, they were interviewing her and like making her answer all these uncomfortable questions. And she's like, I need money for his treatment or whatever. And then
this is just the regular after credit sequence.
Okay,
to the
well,
game, because I did see this
a sequence where it's revealed that it's her son, I guess.
Oh, okay, that makes
On top
some
of
sense.
that. It's like it's an extended scene, I guess.
Okay, so it just doesn't work then. Chronologically speaking. Though I will say, to maybe shift gears a little bit here, that scene and also several other scenes in the game are rendered as like these anime cutscenes, which actually go pretty hard, and are great.
Yeah, it's hard to know like what to think of it, because like, once again, I knew nothing about the game, so I started up. It's this like third person gun sword action game, so I'm obviously thinking of Wet, the game that we played last year for February. That's passingly similar to this at a glance. And And then you finish that, and you get like an anime cutscene followed by a mini game where you eat ramen noodles, and like to a rhythm game, and then you're dropped into like a hub where it's like play the crane machine, and like and it's just like what is this game? Like it's like so bizarre.
It is.
I don't really have much more to say about it that we haven't already said, but like man, like the first like hour and a half to 2 hours of playing this game is a fucking roller coaster.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And the fact that it has this is like I don't want to belabor this point in specific because I know it is like the intro to the Jacob Geller video, and I would just be rehashing a joke that he already made. But for people who are going to listen to this and not watch that, there's a karaoke minigame that happens out of nowhere. You get berated by your boss, and then the game fades to black. It does the loading screen in this game, which is just the super hot fire meme. Mm-hmm. And it is that meme fully. Obvious reference, obvious recreation of it using the character models of this game throughout the entire game, despite it having no relevance or bearing on the characters or story in any way. Just needed to get that out there. And then it goes into this karaoke minigame where you do a bad rhythm game to the song 99 Luftballons by Nina. And then it says that you can do the karaoke minigame from the thing, from the lounge in the hub area, but the only song you can do is 99 Love Balloons. There aren't other songs in the game. So it's just the same thing over and over again. The animations are all the same. It plays the same track. It's so weird that it exists in that way. The game also has one arcade game that you can play, and you can play it if you're not playing on PC on an ultra wide monitor, because apparently that breaks the game and makes it way too zoomed in. I don't know how that happened, but fortunately you don't have to beat any of these games. You just do them and then they end. The ramen minigame is also stupid. It's also a bad rhythm game. Just very confusing. Like the minigames and the fact that they let you replay them is just really odd, because it's like, it's weird. Like, who would want to replay them?
Yeah, it was just like that little bit better. Like after that, like doing the intro and then the ramen minigame, like I was ready to love the game. It's like so weird in like a cool way, and then it just falls apart.
I mean, I do agree with that. I think especially like very early in the game, like it's funny because we talked about how this game like clearly wanted to be a bigger thing and maybe even a series with sequels to like dive into the more intricate ideas that they had for the story. But like this game is too long for what it is. Like it's like 6 levels.
Yeah.
And it stops being fun to participate in after 3 levels. And it's like, which is fine. I enjoyed the experience of like seeing, and there's still gold in the cutscenes in those later levels as well. So it's not completely worthless or anything. But the actual gameplay, I got tired of very quickly. And didn't really want to do anymore. Enemies just took too much damage.
Yeah.
There were too many waves of enemies. I spent half the time just like sprinting to the next guy so that I could kick him and then do a charge attack to cut him in half. Just like it was like, it felt like I was playing it in such a cheesy way because the game was so unforgiving with the amount of just like bullshit that it has.
Oh God, my least favorite thing in the whole game is how many times a teammate would yell grenade as a grenade is hitting me.
Yeah, it's kind of irritating. what is Cortez? So Cortez is one of the main four characters. It's Hannah Stone, you, a very tall lady with a sword, and like has every pattern on imaginable. She's got like sneakers and like ripped jeans and a tank top and then like a jacket with ripped sleeves over top.
So you can see her robot arm.
So you can see her robot arm. And like extremely colorful hair accessories. Like she's a very loud character. The rest of the characters are a lot more subdued.
Yeah, there's military guys.
They're military guys. There's Herzog. I don't know. None of his dialogue makes any sense. It's
He's
delivered
the ramen
as if
guy, isn't he?
he's the ramen guy who says the phrase, "I'm a gourmet." Just spin the wheel of fortune and let fate decide. And I was like, those concepts aren't connected at all.
Right. I think
being
he's
a gourmet and chance. I don't know.
I think he's supposed to be like the douchey, unlikable guy that you grow to like over time, but you don't get the time.
No, you certainly don't. There's Doc, who has basically no personality whatsoever. He is the doctor. He picks you up once if you die, which is nice.
Which makes him the best character.
Which does make him the best character. And then there's Cortez, who is deaf or maybe just mute. I'm not sure. The game doesn't go into it. Maybe it does in a document I didn't read. But he signs everything. So he doesn't speak. So first of all, I've watched pretty closely. I don't know sign language. I know like certain sign language. There's no way that the signs that he's doing in game are actually ASL. I just don't believe it. Like the gestures are like wild.
Yeah.
But the important thing though is that because he doesn't speak, there are multiple levels where he's the only person accompanying you. But the game still has like a voice that's like a British voice.
Right.
It's really noticeable in the Deaf Panther Club level because that's the longest one where he's the only person you have with you. And I don't know who is supposed to be speaking, and they're just saying the same lines over and over again. So there's just like a disembodied voice that kept being like, "What's wrong with you? What are you doing?" Is it supposed to be the enemies calling it out? Like I had no idea what was happening.
I have to say I didn't even think about it.
Oh, it was very distracting to me.
Yeah.
There's also like two instances where there's like a third person narrator who comes in who like speaks with this heavy Australian accent. That was weird and confusing. I had a moment during the Brahma minigame where I was like, are they trying to do like a Catherine thing where they like give you facts about stuff? But no, it only happens once. It's so bizarre.
There's so many bizarre things that you forget about some of them.
That's true.
I thought that the gun parry was cool.
I kind of stopped using it after I got the parry unparryable attack skill.
Right, yeah.
Because I would always forget to do it. And then I would just mash the block button over and over again.
I did it accidentally enough times that like created the habit of doing it on purpose.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because the worst enemy in the game is guy far away from you with a grenade launcher.
Oh, yeah.
Because they just do like 90% of your health in one go. And I think you have to parry them with the gun to get them to not shoot you.
Yeah, I couldn't. Are you like, was what's happening there that like you're shooting the grenade out of the air?
That's
like, when
possible.
You parry it? Like, I swear there were times where like an enemy would throw a grenade while I was shooting, and then she would just go, and I think shoot it in the air and make it explode before it hit the ground. But I I never did that on purpose.
Right. No, I mean it sounds cool though. That might have happened. I just may not have been paying close enough attention.
Yeah, it might have just regular gun parried some guy.
Yeah. No, I think I don't know, a lot of my strategy in this game was very, like, it's a kind of cheesy. I felt like I was trying to find exploits for every enemy type.
I mean, I feel like it encourages that kind of play.
Yeah.
Like, there were times where, like, I would, like, when I would go into a room, kind of try to stay at the front of it, you know, like, near where I came into it. And so many enemies show up that I'm like, is me not advancing causing enemies to just infinitely come at me? Like, that's how many enemies show up. I don't think that's the case, but, like, man, just waves of damage sponge enemies just coming at you.
Yep, it's like an infinite number of enemies, and it's weird because the game's difficulty is basically like, did it feel like giving you a checkpoint after that fight? Because sometimes it doesn't, and you have to do like multiple fights that have multiple waves of more than a dozen enemies to kill, and it just like, that's where you die, and then you have to go back and you go, wait, how far back did I go? Fuck this game sucks. Like, I went through that loop a couple of times for sure. I kind of want to talk about bosses. I specifically want to talk about a particular thing that this game shone a light on that I don't think that I would have recognized otherwise.
All right.
And then we can talk about other bosses generally. This game has an invisible boss, like a boss that has a cloaking device, a cloak with a cloaking device. And it's not a hard boss. It's one of the bosses that I beat on my first try. But it made me realize something, is that invisible enemy is the worst game design decision that is consistently made by good games. Because I was like, I hate invisible enemies. Like, it feels very player unfriendly in a way that I don't think is fun to overcome. And I was like, the only games that do it are like Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Metal Gear Solid 2, Resident Evil 4. I was like, oh, it's all of my favorite games do this. And I don't know why. And I hate them in all of those games. Like, every invisible enemy in those games I don't like. But this game happened to be an example of a game that isn't good that also used a thing that I don't like in it.
Yeah. I think it pops up because it's like, on paper, it sounds interesting. And I feel like it's how it's implemented. Because, like, I feel like, and it might just be my biases, but, like, I feel like I like Priscilla in Dark Souls 1 because, like, you can see your footprints in the snow. Like, I feel like that's a cool way to deal with the problem of fighting an invisible enemy. At least I like it better than, like, when there's, like, kind of like a vague outline and they're, like, kind of not really invisible.
Yeah, that's just a cop-out.
Yeah, but, like, I don't like the Witches of Hemwick or something like that. So, I don't know. Yeah, I think it depends on how it's done. But, yeah, very difficult to pull off, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard to pull off, and this game had a lot stacked against it in that regard as well. But yeah, I don't know. The fact that this game has bosses in the way that Deus Ex Human Revolution had bosses, in that it was like a thing that I think they just felt like they had to do because they were making a third-person action game. Because none of them, with the exception of, like, the last boss, feel like they were really thought out, like, how it would feel to play with this game's combat system. Like, the boss of the second level sucks ass. August, the leader of the guys, you know him well.
The leader of the bunch.
Leader of the bunch. Because the bunch is there at the beginning. Every time that you die on that boss, you have to do a phase where you just fight 10 regular enemies again. While he shoots grenades at you from 1,000 miles away. It sucks. It's like the worst. I think genuinely the least fun that I had in the game by
it's
a
definitely
mile.
the worst part.
Yeah. It's extremely awful.
Yeah,
the spider tank is fine in
I think
comparison.
the spider tank is almost pretty good.
Yeah. I think spider tank would be good if it was like animated in a way that made any sense to me.
Yeah, better tells.
I would be okay with it.
The second phase where it just blasts you with grenades. Yeah, bosses that just blast you with grenades turns out pretty bad.
Pretty bad. But at least I find it funny with the spider tank because the boss was easy enough that like it took like the first spider tank boss took me like 2 tries or something. August took me like 6 tries where I had to keep going back and fighting a bunch of regular dudes and getting blasted by grenades.
Right.
So I do want to give the spider tank a pass. I even want to give fight 2 spider tanks a pass because it kind of hits the same notes. It's still funny to me.
Right.
I do think the last boss is like a good idea. I think making you fight a sword person was a smart move.
Right. It's a thing you would expect from this game.
Yeah. And it's like the kind of thing that people who play 3D action games always say that they like. I don't know if I believe all of them. I think some people are riding the wave, but they're like, put me up against somebody who is exactly the same as me. Give them the same abilities, and I love like figuring out that fight. And I'm like, would you really rather fight that than like, I don't know, like a shark with a machine gun or something? Like that sounds cool.
Right.
Like way cooler than just guy with sword. But it did work out in this game. I think it was weird because it is like a one-on-one fight. It took me 3 attempts. My first 2 attempts were like 3 seconds long. So all I had to learn was just like, oh, just block him.
Right.
And then once I was on that train, it wasn't tough really to deal with.
Yeah.
But it was still to me like a fun fight.
Yeah. It's not quite like a Simon Says kind of boss, but like it is like you have to learn how to deal with each thing that he does. He's one of those kind of yeah, I guess I don't know how better to describe it, but yeah, like
he is Simon.
yeah. I guess maybe he is a little bit of a Simon Says kind of boss. I retract what I said.
I retract what I said so that I can double down on the first thing that I said.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way of putting it. Yeah. I think your like slow motion mode
bullet time
is like the bullet reflex ? Or I think that was roller drome. I don't remember what it's called in this game. Adrenaline rush. That's what it is. Is forgiving enough. I think that like it makes the learning experience of bosses in specific a lot easier to manage because you can sort of just like use it and then you aren't punished for like missing timings on stuff. So, which I think was a good decision. I think the game needed a bit of a hand holding mechanic. It needed funky mode.
Yeah. Weirdly, I wanted to compare it to Star Power from Guitar Hero.
Okay.
Or you can.
It is. Yeah.
If you were a good player, you would use that to optimize your score. But if you're a bad player, you can use it to save you.
I mean, that's why Star Power is a good mechanic.
Yeah.
And why Adrenaline Rush is a good mechanic. I agree. I don't have anything else in specific to talk
Me neither.
about. All right. Do we have... Dad, I woke up this morning and I had 4 balls thoughts.
My 4 balls thoughts are... I had no idea what to expect from this game. I didn't even know like what it looked like. I was kind of surprised that it was like a more modern game. yeah, and we're just completely blindsided by the tone. It is, yeah, like a very weird cocktail, but like I was all about it for it at the beginning. I was like, what's this weird third person action game where I'm doing a ramen mini game and there's this weird uh narrative that takes itself like weirdly seriously at points and etc. and so forth. But yeah, I feel like as we kept coming back to, I feel like it just does not have either the budget or the experience to really polish everything and to like bring it all together into a cohesive whole. It the actual gameplay I think is pretty polished, but like feels like it's padded out. Like the enemies are huge damage sponges. Like there's too many waves of them. The levels last a little too long. Maybe a little bit too far in between checkpoints. Almost just a little arcadey in design in that way. Like I feel like it wants you to fail the levels to make the game a little bit longer. So yeah, it doesn't quite come together. But like, I don't know. I had never heard of this game. I don't know how well it did, but like, I don't know. Hell yeah, I'd like to see a Wanted Dead 2. Why not? This game, I feel like they had so many ideas. It's so weird and feels unique, and I don't know. I was kind of here for it, even though I didn't like it that much.
Yeah, I think that my final thoughts will probably be quite short, because I mostly just agree with what you're saying. I think I was super on board because I had seen Jacob Geller's video and like had like a general idea of what to expect with this. I was like, I do want to play this. I especially want Andy to play this because he doesn't know what it is.
Right.
And it would be funny to have him have to experience that and sit on a chair and go, what am I doing right now? So I was super into it. And in the opening parts of the game, I was very much like, I was honeymoon phasing for sure, where I didn't mind the jankiness of everything because I was getting what I wanted out of it. I think that if the game was a little better, I think that I end up liking the game a lot less because the elements of it that are bad are part of the charm. But I think that the game failed to create like a genuinely enjoyable mechanical loop and then force the player to go through a lot of very samey mechanical sections in order to get to the parts of the game that are still entertaining. And I think that that's where it ends up letting me down personally. So like, this is to me like this is a good like cult classic style game. It just is, it overstays its welcome, even if it stays quite short. It has not quite enough. It doesn't have enough bones. It doesn't have good enough bones. Also, maybe not enough bones. That seems like it would also be bad. To prop it up in order to like withstand its own runtime. But otherwise, like cool ideas, bad ideas implemented in cool ways at times. It does have interesting things. Even if I didn't come out loving it, it did have moments that I did love. Thank you for listening to No Clip this week.
What are we talking about next time?
Next time, now that we've gone through 2 full months of February, we're going to try and clean up some games that we've been wanting to get to for a little bit. And we're going to be talking about Immortality, a game from the developer of Her Story and Telling Lies that follows a similar, though from my understanding, more cinematic sort of direction to it. So I'm looking forward to it and have been for a while.
Yeah, more cinematic than videos.
It's more cinematic. It's like movies.
Oh my God.
You have to watch a whole movie each time and then search.
To watch hundreds of movies and then solve a mystery.
Yeah. So it's going to be like another 6 months before we actually do an episode, because we do have to watch the entire Criterion collection. But until that time, you can get a hold of us. All of our contact information is on our website at noclippodcast.com or on splattershot.pro. There you can find links to our Twitter account, our YouTube channel, the Discord where people suggested the last 4 games that we played, and continue to suggest games throughout the year that we do play when we feel like it.
Yeah.
Which is fairly often.
Whenever the mood strikes.
Yeah. You can listen to all of our old episodes, including ones that we did on Metal Gear Solid 2.
Wet.
On Wet.
Yeah, the big one.
That is the obvious one that I skipped over. On what other PS3 games that we played?
The Last of Us. That's a third
The Last of Us?
PlayStation 3 game.
That counts. We also did The Last of Us Part 2.
What's the Tango Game Works horror game?
Oh, the horror game. Because we did Ghostwire Tokyo, which is them. And also the Evil Within 2.
Evil Within 2, yeah.
Also kind of feels like a PS3 game.
Third person shooting, etc., so forth.
Realms of the Haunting and Harvester are both classic
what about,
games that we like because they're cheesy and weird.
Right. Ghost Runner, another katana wielding game.
Classic katana game right there. You have a lot to pick from. Because this game embodies everything that video games are. Slash that like button.
Alert someone that a grenade is coming towards them as it explodes in the comment section.
I remember I was playing one time and I did like the finisher move and like ran over to a guy and like stabbed him. You do the finisher stab.
Yeah.
And then as I because you have invincibility frames that whole time. Mm-hmm. As I killed him, 3 grenades exploded simultaneously and killed me and set me back 10 minutes.
There's also like I don't know if you'd call it a bug or it's probably just like an oversight that like if you're like against a wall when a grenade goes off, you can't move. You'll just get stuck in the like I'm on fire animation until you die.
Oh, that's good.
Or the fire goes
I
out,
love that.
You know.
I had a bug where after I killed the first spider tank, the second one just like vanished.
Yeah.
And I had to reload because the boss wouldn't die.
Yeah. That sucks.
Yeah, wild stuff. Hey.
This concludes our podcast day.
I meant to text you this earlier, and then I got caught up fighting a Uth Duna.
I feel like you just made that up. That's not a real monster.